It's about time, let them hate. As a sign, clocking out. I don't care about the time, I'm a heavyweight. Let them wait, AAA. But I know they underrate. I'm moving out, I'm moving up. Milwaukee was the last time I cared about $100. Trust me, I'm rusty. Hit it with no protection, like I'm playing rugby. Below the waist, in a daze. Dead serious, I'll take that to the grave. Moving out, moving up. My Instagram popping.
Calvin, how you doing?
Good. How are you? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What part of the States are you living?
Right now I'm in Rhode Island.
Okay, nice.
Nice. Yeah. How about yourself?
Oklahoma City.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I was in Oklahoma beginning of this year, with OPSM.
Okay.
They did a Tulsa FC Tulsa thing.
Okay.
To train with some players.
I feel like I've heard. Is that an agency?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I've heard the name of. Yeah, I've heard they're actually doing one. It's not no, it's Chattanooga.
Yes.
They're doing one coming up here shortly. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Yeah. Awesome. So first off, I just want to say I really appreciate your time to come on the podcast. So before we start, if you just kind of want to introduce yourself for the listeners, and they can kind of get an idea. I'm sure people that are listening know who you are, but just give them a little bit of a background, and then we'll kind of get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Cody Laurendi, now retired former professional goalkeeper, originally from Melbourne, Florida. Now currently living in Oklahoma City and working as a player's agent. That's
Awesome.
me in a nutshell.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, so just to get right into it, we'll start off at your college years. So when you were playing through college, did you have aspirations to go pro? Was that something that you were like, this is what I want to do? Or was it more just playing, having fun and seeing, whatever happens?
Yeah, I actually, I was going to go to college to play football, American football.
Okay.
And I was going to go as a punter.
Mm-hmm.
And that while soccer was my first love, I really enjoyed playing football. Having said that, I was still playing, youth soccer in senior year, and we went to a couple showcases, and through the showcase circuit, was able to receive an offer from a small junior college in Georgia, South Georgia College, to come play. That coupled with the fact that my college offers all kind of were walk-on offers, I decided that, take the quote unquote sure thing. So decided against playing college football and decided to play soccer. Only spent 1 year at the junior college in Georgia, and then moved back home.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh no, nice. So so that was kind of leading into my next question. You had an experience playing in Belgium. And so with that 1 year of experience playing, at junior college and then going over to Belgium, was there a difference in the play? And if so, what were some of the things? Or did you find it to be similar or whatnot?
Everything was different. Everything was different from look, the play, the weather, the communication, different language, right? Different monetary system. But it was the first time in my life where it wasn't, you weren't playing soccer just because it was fun. It was like you're playing soccer and the people you're playing against, this is how they put food on the table. So being 18, 19 years of age over there in that environment was massively beneficial. Because up until that point, it was like, yeah, I play soccer because it's fun to do. Now you kind of are opened up to this whole, no, I play soccer because that's what I'm good at, and that's what pays me, and that's what feeds my family. So to experience that at a fairly young age, I think was massively beneficial.
That's interesting you say that because this year I was on my first professional trial and
Mhm.
I was trying to. So a couple of my friends are really into soccer as well, and I tried to explain them that there's almost like two versions of football where you have the Bob Marley. I like to say like chill with the friends and hang out,
Yes.
and then you have that it's business and it's all ready to go, and it is definitely I definitely know what you're saying about that.
Yeah,
So
man.
it's very eye opening. So from my sources, you went to an open tryout with the Islanders, and so right,
Yep.
yeah, and so my question to that is, how did you approach that, and what did you feel made you stand out amongst the other goalkeepers there?
Yeah, it's good. That's a good question. And it's uh, pertinent to some views on open tryouts for
Mm,
people
mm,
today, where they look at it as, oh, this is a money grab and yada, yada, whatever.
mhm,
Look, you don't know what your opportunity looks like.
mhm,
You have this concept of what your opportunity is, but in reality, it's probably a little different. And that's kind of how I approached this open tryout. They had just come off a year where, man, I think they lost in the CONCACAF Champions League semifinal in penalties to Cruz Azul. So they were a big time club. Um, so immediately I was like, okay, well, you know, literally let's pay my dues here. I paid my $150. It was in Orlando. I'm from Melbourne, which is hour and a half at max drive away. So I just figured, go out there. What's the worst that can happen? I'd much rather say, oh, well, than I wish. And it worked out. I was able to beat out 10 other goalkeepers. I didn't do anything special. I just, I worked hard. I was attentive. We we did a couple, if I can remember correctly, we did a couple goalkeeper sessions and then we just played. But I was myself. And you know, showed up early, stayed after if anybody wanted to take some extra shots. It was only a 2 or 3 day event, but was able to not secure a contract, secure an invite into preseason. So there's value there. I'm a big believer in open tryouts, and that open tryout specifically, I think they got five players from it. So there's value there.
Absolutely, I have to agree as well because that's actually how I got this. One of my opportunities this year was with the NISA team, and so I looked at it as NISA is a fairly new league, and
Right.
if you're going to go to an open trial, that's probably one of the best opportunities to, be seen and progress. So I agree with you. So now this is something that I find I have to say too. I didn't say this at the beginning, but you're a goalkeeper that I've always admired, just because there's a lot of similarities in certain things, and I've always tried you and Maximum Crepo are the two
Yeah.
that I watch a lot or watched a lot. So it's very cool to be talking to you. So this is one question that I really wanted to ask. So in 2012, you ended up you signed for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, and it was as the backup goalkeeper. But you
Yeah.
ended up beating out the first starter for after 3 games, and then you end up playing against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and then you get that start, and then 30 minutes you get a lacerated kidney. Now I've never seen a lacerated kidney, but I'm sure that's horrible. That's got to be so. How did you manage all those emotions from just everything going good, and then all of a sudden you get subbed off, and then you're out for a full season? That the mentality behind that has to be something special.
Yeah. I mean, Calvin, it was brutal, man. It was it,
Ah,
it, it really was. I'm not being dramatic. It was brutal. Up until that point, like, take it back just quickly. The season before is when we found out around this time, right before Christmas, that the Islanders were folding. So then you're in scramble mode. Your head's all over the
yeah.
place. Oh, where am I going to play? Right. Went into preseason with Fort Lauderdale. Did well enough to secure a contract. And obviously then, like you said, I was fortunate enough to get the start. And when that happened, it was physical pain, yes, but it was just like, oh man, this is going to be a massive, massive setback. So that, yeah, that was very difficult to deal with. But I kind of, after kind of things settled down, I was in the hospital, had 2 procedures at that point, had a tube coming out of my back for like 10 months. It was brutal. But you control what you can control, right? I wasn't too far away from home, so I, periodically go back and forth to Melbourne from Fort Lauderdale. I was around teammates that I loved and cared about, right? So set and setting was important for healing. And it was one day at a time. And I know it's cliche, it is, but it's the truth. It was like, okay, I can't, it's not like a ACL or, a broken arm where you can go to rehab for it. You could see incremental progress. It was a vital organ that, had been cut.
Yeah.
And it was a complete life changer. I couldn't train, right? I wasn't able to get like sweaty because I had an incision in my back, and it was, that whole thing. But yeah, so it was a total life change. So you lean into other things that you're interested in, your interpersonal relationships, I'm interested in reading, I'm interested in listening to podcasts. I'm interested in learning. I didn't have the typical college experience, so I kind of went back and started leaning into things that I missed when it came to the education side of things. So you kind of take your circumstance, and again, you don't let it define you. You adjust the path.
Absolutely. And I think that's really beautiful, because to go through, like you said, all those things, and then that range of emotions, and then to come back and end up playing 98 games with Oklahoma and all that is amazing. But before we get to that, one question, just kind of out of curiosity. So you had the chance to play with LA Galaxy too,
Yes.
for a little bit as well. As a player, is there a difference playing in USL with a MLS affiliated team and a non-affiliated MLS team, or is it the same thing, just kind of more buzz or whatever?
That's a great question. Standalone franchises. So you use the Oklahoma City Energy, who we played for. It's different than Galaxy 2. Galaxy 2, my experience was a great one, but here's the reality. And from a goalkeeper perspective is you could train all week at a very high level, do great. Come game day, if one of the first team guys needs minutes, you're on the bench, right? So, and that doesn't go just for goalkeeping, that goes for every position on the field. So it was a good experience, and wow, you're in and around it. I got to train with the first team a couple times a week, made really good connections within the game. But when it comes to your development as a player, very difficult to succeed in that environment, because there's so many pieces at work that it's not just down to your on-field play, right? There's that dirty word, politics, that are involved, at play. Doesn't matter how good you're training. Like I said, if one of the guys of the first team needs minutes, then you're out. So from a viewpoint of career kind of, using it as a stepping stone, it's good, but you don't want to find yourself in a reserve setup for much longer than a year or two.
Interesting. That makes sense. That was kind of something I've always been curious about, because I'm a huge hockey fan as well as football, and the AHL. I've noticed the NHL does a very good job at bringing people up and down really quickly, and I think in the US they're still trying to find that rhythm and seeing what works. So I was just genuinely curious about that. So that's cool to know.
And look, don't get me wrong, it was a great learning experience, right? You're in and around the first team, you're hanging out with guys that you've watched for years play, you're speaking with, at the time it was Bruce Arena was the head
Wow.
coach. You make a lot of great connections, right?
Hmm.
But for your development as a player, not a great place to be.
Interesting.
Long term.
Interesting. So, touching upon what we kind of spoke about before, 98 games with Oklahoma City Energy in the USL. That is a massive accomplishment. For me, I always admire people who are consistent, because it's very easy to do it once, but consistency, especially at the professional level, is something that I think is very important. So, what would you say? And if there's not like a top three, you don't have to give it, but what would you say the top three mental qualities were that helped you do that, along with like the actual football ability?
Okay. I don't know if I have a top three, but I'll just give you some
Yeah,
insight in terms of what has helped me in the
absolutely.
past. Is that I don't want to, I don't go as my confidence goes, right? It's not, wow, I'm high, I'm very confident today.
Mhm.
It's self-belief.
Mm.
And the difference is confidence comes and goes, right? And you're like this, and you're like, that's like imagine like a roller coaster. That's confidence, right? That word you said earlier, consistency. If you rely on confidence, you will not have consistency,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
You rely on your self-belief.
Mm.
And the only way you develop self-belief, in my opinion, is through work.
Mm.
So I'll take you through like a week of in the life, if you will, like the game day or whatever. If I know that I've done cutbacks, I've done shot stopping from close range, I've worked on claiming crosses, distribution, the mental checklist along the week, then I go into a game with my self-belief, knowing that if I perform to the level that I know I'm capable of, I will succeed, right? And in goalkeeping, because it is such a, it is a mental, like there's a reason why goalkeepers can play till 40, because it's physically not the issue. It's here is the issue, right? Can you deal one with the successes? So you're not like the man when
Mhm.
everything's going great, and you're also not a failure if you make a mistake, right? You gotta kind of have that even keel. And that's what's helped me, is like, okay, I had a great game. There's time to enjoy it, right? And not just because you're not a robot, right? You want to enjoy the experience. But conversely, if you make a mistake, all right, the sun's coming up tomorrow, right? We'll train again. We'll get better. And that's what helped me. Early on, it was like oh, how do I feel? Well,
Mhm.
you're not always going to feel good.
Yeah.
You're not always going to feel great. You're not always going to feel out of 10. But that is the difference between an amateur mindset and a professional mindset, is doing the work and doing it to a high level that you know you're capable of, regardless of feel.
Mm. Mm. That's very true. That's kind of like the difference between motivation and discipline.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Motivation is doing it, it's great, but
Yeah.
eventually that motivation leaves because it's cold or things didn't
Yeah.
work out. And so that's very, very well said.
And don't get like piggybacking off what you just said. Look, I love that's why I use social media for. I love these videos. I love these short clips, these
Mhm.
motivational words and stuff like that. But you're not always going to have that, right? So if it's cold, right? You said you're in Maine right now.
Rhode Island. Rhode
Rhode
Island.
Island. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rhode Island's
California.
probably freezing right now. Look, I'm
Yeah.
outside of Oklahoma City. It's pretty cold here too,
Yeah.
right? But it's like, all right, routine.
Yeah.
You get up at a certain point, you do your routine. That is
Absolutely.
what sets you up for long-term success.
Exactly. And actually, it's funny you mentioned the cold. I'm not sure if you know who Wim Hof is.
I love Wim Hof. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually, for the past 3 months, I bought like a nice little blow up thing. And so
Okay.
I'm a big person on the mentality of life, and
Correct.
especially in football. So I'll go in, I'll sit, it's so cold. It's 10
Yes.
minutes. I sit in there and
Yes.
I meditate, and then the rest of the day just sets me up. And it's crazy, but
You're
just little things
you're
like that.
You're a smart man. You're a smart man. I love the Wim Hof method. We actually had my former goalkeeper coach. We actually tried the breathing technique and about passed out right before training started.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is insane. The reason I started it because I was a little skeptical at first. I was like, we'll see. But
Right.
then I did it and I was like, oh my God, I feel great.
Well, I mean, it's understandable to be skeptical, right? He's reversed ailments based
Yeah.
off of, he's like a medical miracle, as they say. But no, that's another one. Ice baths, right? After training, regardless, it's like, oh, well, I don't feel like taking an ice bath today. I don't feel like being uncomfortable. Well, then you're going to get a result that is not the desired result, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree with you because just to kind of piggyback off with that as well. So earlier, not earlier, a little earlier this year, I was lucky enough to get a trial with the team and things were going very well, made it to the final round. And during those times when I knew that I was kind of progressing, it was so much easier to train. I had that momentum, had that excitement. I was like, let's go. And then because of certain things, it didn't end up working out financially and everything. So obviously, when that happens, you're like, oh, man, I was so close. So then I came back home and everything, and you're like, whoa, like, all right, I still have to be putting in that same amount of work, if not more, because I need to get at the level that I need to be at. So it's just that mentality of, like you said, almost like Tim Grover, which was Michael Jordan's the book Relentlessness, that kind of thing. So that's awesome. I think that was really well said. So now just kind of switching on to your, after, you retired, now you're a player's agent and everything. So just to kind of, I think it's important for for players to kind of be a little educated about agencies, because I've had some different experiences speaking with different people and whatnot. So the first thing I would say is, when players are looking to, look at agencies and whatnot, what should be some things that they should be kind of aware of to make sure that it's not, anything other than what it should be?
Well, sorry about that. I think first and foremost, young players, I think they should worry about building a name for themselves before they seek out an agent, right? Unless you're, at a major school or in the academy and you're this hot, highly touted prospect, it's important for you, if you can do it without one, in my opinion, I think you should do it without one. Because you don't have any leverage, right? You don't have any leverage because you haven't shown a team or a coach that you can do it over a sustained period of time, right? You're not a striker who's banged in, double-digit goals for a season or 2 seasons, right? A goalkeeper who's kept X amount of clean sheets. So I would, my suggestion for young players is to worry about getting into a professional setup before you look for an agent. Also, I think people should be wary of any agency that requires an upfront cost.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Myself and my business partner, PJ, we work for the player, right? And if we are able to secure the player employment, then there's a percentage that we earn. But this concept of I'm 16, I'm 17, looking for a top agent, I would push back and I would say, and this is coming from an agent, I would push back and I would say, no, worry about getting into the setup first. Worry about being consistent. Worry about making a difference for whatever team that you're playing for. And then start asking around, talk to the older guys. And they can they can break it down for you. They could shoot you straight, if you will. Hey, this person, has a good reputation, because that's what this is all about. This is about reputation. And that's why I got involved in being an agent, is because I've seen a lot of player representation where they'll do a deal and you won't hear from them for like 6 months, or they're not invested in the player's journey throughout a season.
Mhm.
And that is what I want. That's what I want, that sets, myself apart from other people, is that, listen, if you trust me to work on your behalf, I am going to be with you throughout this journey, right? I'm here. My phone is always on for you to call if something's wrong or if something's great. If you just want to talk, you want to talk about stuff on the field, you want to talk about stuff off the field. That's my personal desire, within this industry. And there's a lot of people, agents, there's a lot of people that promise the world and deliver on nothing.
Yeah.
So I work under the idea of under promising but over delivering.
Yeah, very well said.
That's how I live.
That's awesome. That's so because I think that's really good to know, because I'm only 21, but I know when I was younger, I was kind of doing like the focusing maybe too much on looking for an agent instead of doing that. So this will lead into my last question, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but so this is more of actually like kind of a selfish question, but I also know players are some players might be in the same scenario. So for me, I'm looking to, I know I have a very realistic idea of where I am and where I can go. So with that being said, I know the next thing for me is just like you said, getting games in and starting to build that reputation. Would you say it's more beneficial to place, if you could get an opportunity overseas at a lower level, or would you say try to stick it out, maybe do USL one, not USL one, USL two, and stuff like? What would you say is kind of better for players?
Wherever you can play. Wherever you can play, because look, I've seen it firsthand, right? And I'll use the MLS to USL Championship example. It's great. Look, don't get me wrong. It's wonderful to say you've been drafted. It's wonderful to make a roster in the MLS. But if you are sitting on the bench, you are not progressing as a player. And I've seen it countless times where guys from the MLS will come on loan and they're behind. And the reason that they're behind in their development is because they haven't been tested. They haven't played. They haven't experienced the adversity, right? On a day in, day out, level. And you regress. It's human nature. It's not anything, it's not like personal to a certain, individual. It's human nature. If you're not in the environment, if you're not up to speed, even from the MLS to the USL Championship level, there's a speed of play, right? That if you're sitting on the bench from an MLS side, or with an MLS side, I should say, you are being passed over. So I am the firm believer of go play in the, some obscure country's third division, to get games.
Yeah.
To get games, it far outweighs, sitting the bench or not making an 18 for a team here, and then obviously ultimately be able to come back, but put things on film, build a reputation. So
awesome. That's really good advice, because that's kind of, I know that's the next step for me too as well. So it's cool. I've always said to myself, like my goal, my end goal is to hopefully make the USL level, and then I'll be happy. So, but yeah, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of goalkeepers that can learn from this podcast, be inspired, kind of have better grasps on what to do. So I really, really sincerely appreciate your time.
Calvin, thank you for yours as well, man. I really appreciate, coming on here and getting to chop it up with you.
No problem. So yeah, best of luck with your journey as being an agent. And yeah, thank you again.
Appreciate it, man.
No problem. Have a great
wonderful day.
You as well.
Bye now.
Bye.